Welcome, Flyers fans. You're listening to Chris Mayer, Flyers Fan Mania 93 on YouTube.
Alright, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today I'm back with another video here. So I just got back from covering Chuck Fletcher's end of the year press conference. I think there were some things that you expected. I think there were some things that, kind of caught my attention a little bit. Obviously, the big thing going into it was last night, Kevin Weeks broke that the Flyers are going to be, head coach Mike Yeo won't be returning in that role. So Yeo will not be returning in the head coach capacity. Fletcher confirmed that. He said that he won't be returning. He said, quote unquote, he's a good hockey man, and they're going to try to find something for him to do in the organization, whether it's scout, front office, could be an assistant, not really sure. But we'll see where that goes. So obviously, Yeo won't be returning. Flyers will be looking for a different coach. Also, but Yeo will be still staying in the organization as well. Obviously, mentioning injuries. He's mentioned defending all the time, and this isn't the first time he's mentioned defending all the time. I look at that as they want to be better getting out of their own zone, and he's said that before. And he added two guys that were actually pretty good passers in Gustafsson and Yandel. Gustafsson and Yandel that was the one thing that's good about their game is they can pass. It was just a lot of turnovers. And they honestly weren't good enough third pairing guys. He's missed out 2 years in a row on third pairing defensemen that signed here. And he mentioned that. I mean, he said our third pairing was a -28 this year. He said, I think it's 5-5. So there's that. I think that's something they need to improve on. And I think it's an area that they need to fill. And the last couple years, and I talked about this in the Q&A video because I had a question about it, he brings in those two players, and obviously different situations. Gustafsson was more because they needed a defenseman to kind of fill in for Niskanen. Everybody kind of thought Myers was going to go up to the top pair, well, it ends up being Braun and this whole thing, right? Yandel's brought in, I think, more because of everything that went on with Kevin Hayes, which is perfectly understandable. Probably was probably supposed to just play the entire year, ends up getting sat, that whole thing, so there's that too. So that's an area where I'm like, okay, if you keep the top four with Provorov, Ellis, Sanheim, Ristolainen, obviously Sanheim and Risto have a term left. Ellis comes out the other day, says he wants to be a Flyer. Provorov kind of has that question mark above his head. Then you have Cam York, who I believe is an NHL player at this point, so who's the other defenseman you kind of throw into that mix? Do they sign somebody? Do they have, is it a younger guy? Like he's talked about, he said an aggressive retool means being aggressive in all areas. So I think they're going to try to do different things. He said it's going to be very similar to the 2019 offseason. If you remember that offseason, the Flyers hired Lehman Yo pretty early. It was actually 12 days after the season ended. And when they did that, they also traded back in the draft. They had the 11th pick. They traded to the 15th, drafted Cam York. I wonder if they trade back with that pick. I'm not saying they will, and I don't think they should do that. I think they should stay where they are and use that pick because I think they can get a really good player. But if they think aggressive retool means being aggressive in all areas, they're trying to do a little bit of both of winning now and also adding to the future at the same time. And it's it seemed like going into 2019-20, it was kind of just win now. Now it seems like it's a little mix of both. And, I don't necessarily know how that'll work because they're very tight to the cap. So we have to see what high-end guys they can bring in here. He talked about Fedotov being the backup. He said he definitely can compete for the number 2 spot. He said he's hopeful to come to terms with Fedotov. The expectation is to have him here next year. So we'll see where that goes. I'm hoping that can happen. He ended the playoffs really well over in the KHL. So hopefully, Fedotov can come over here. He said he's going to have to look at, different things, trying to get more talent. He is looking at trade, free agency, trying to get healthy at the same time. Obviously, that's the biggest thing is being healthy. If the Flyers can stay healthy next year and not deal with as many injuries as they did this season, I think they'll be okay. As for the other backup goaltenders, he talked about Jones. He said he thought Jones did his job. He thought he played well. He thought Sandstrom took a big step, played better and better in Lehigh Valley, and then came up here and had some pretty good games. Sandstrom didn't get any wins, but he played better, as the games went on. As for Provorov, there was a question about Provorov and that whole kind of thing. He talked about, they respect the way that he plays. He said he feels like he kind of holds on to the puck too much sometimes. He always gets a top matchup, top penalty kill. He says he's one of the, main defensive players, logs a lot of minutes. So I think it's a lot of minutes that are going to have to go to somebody else if they were to trade Provorov. I don't know. But he also talked about, a captain. He said that's probably like the number 20th thing on their list right now. So it's not a huge concern for them at the moment, is trying to find another captain. Frost, he thought Frost played well throughout the end of the year. He also said he kind of took the criticism they kind of gave him to heart, and he thought he really played well because of that. So I thought that was good to say. He also mentioned that they need to score more and they need a better power play. So those are two areas where I looked. I honestly think that they try to add. If they were to look at another scorer, if they were to look at, a piece to help out the power play, because that's the biggest thing, is trying to find a guy who can consistently put pucks in the net for you. I know Atkinson's a little bit streaky. That can help. You have Tippett, who can turn in and get some at least 20 goals for you when playing well. Konechny's another guy who could get around that range. Lindblom, back to form, can definitely get around 15, 20 goals. So, there's different guys, too. So if they can add another scorer, obviously special teams is huge. I've hinted on that many, many times. And, obviously it sucks because the whole thing with Sam Morin, basically Morin won't be playing hockey in his career again, is basically the way that's going. And no Morin, it's a shame because he plays 20 games last year, scored his first NHL goal, pretty much, played. I thought he played his heart out last year. I thought he had some good games. I thought he made some really nice plays. His first goal was actually a game winner against the Rangers. I thought Morin showed some real character, and I thought it was a really good thing from last year because there weren't many positives from that season, but you get my point. So, overall, I think there's some things that Flyers need to build on. They're very tight with cap. I don't know what areas they attack first. I think, Fletcher said they want to try to find the right coach. So we'll see what happens. He said they're going to look tomorrow and do some different things there. So my guess would be the coach is probably going to come soon, since they did all this with Mike Yeo already, and they pretty much already said it, and he won't be returning. So there's that as well. So let me know your guys' thoughts below. I think it's going to be a crazy offseason. I have some faith. I think there's some certain things that can be done, but it's going to be very challenging. So we'll see what happens. But again, like I said, if it's like 2019, I'm very curious to see if the Flyers will trade down with that pick, because it's the one thing that I do remember the most from that offseason. So let me know your guys' thoughts below. Remember to check out SeatGeek and Carrico Construction. Thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you all again soon.